I know I'm gonna catch a lot of heat for this, Laura, but I'm just gonna say it. I didn't like the Wicked movie. I didn't
No,
like it.
no, I don't like Wicked the show. Um, I don't need. Why is there romance stories in this? I don't understand. It doesn't fit. Nothing about the movie needed to be 3 hours if they just whittled it down to the women and what counts in that story.
I,
So
I, I love you. You have taken now the bullets won't go at you. They won't go at me. This is great.
I am used to being riddled by bullets, so
Oh man,
that is
I
my
just
role.
yeah, it's I've seen it on Broadway probably I want to say 4 times, and
Yeah,
yeah,
I've seen it twice.
the kids loved it. It was good. I enjoyed it. Dina Menzel, Christian Chenoweth, like I loved it the first time, and then it was okay the second and the third and the fourth. But the movie, I really had a hard time with it. I don't know why I had a hard time with it.
3 hours for half of it, maybe.
Yeah, I'm not a Grande fan either. So maybe that's a little. Ever since the donut thing, I'm
I
kind of out.
agree. I have completely held a grudge because of the donut thing.
Oh my god.
Oh, so but
What's
you
the
are a
donut?
Broadway fan though. You are a big Broadway fan.
I am, and in fact, on April 5th, I'm going to make a whirlwind trip. One day only. I'm flying up and flying back, so that because I wanted to see Orville Peck is going to be playing the MC in Cabaret, and I recently discovered him and want to see that. And Titus Burgess is going to be in Oh Mary, so that's my.
So you were flying in to New York. You were watching 2 shows and then flying home.
That's what I hope. That you just described the best case scenario. There are a lot of things that could happen um, on either
Eh,
part of that
eh.
that will disrupt anything. So we'll see.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, there are some wild card issues that may occur. Yeah,
Definitely.
that's good. Well, you'll definitely have to keep us posted.
We'll do.
All right. Well, we do have some stuff to talk about today. It's not Broadway. Are
Oh,
you? Are you? Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Are you ready? Are you ready to jump in?
if we
Ready.
must.
Okay, here we go. If we must, we must.
Welcome to the CXR channel, our premier podcast for talent acquisition and talent management. Listen in as the CXR community discusses a wide range of topics focused on attracting, engaging, and retaining the best talent. We're glad you're here.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Recruiting Community Podcast Show. We're excited to be here. Jerry, how are you?
I'm wonderful, but lagging
A little
slightly.
bit. It's the internet. It's what are you going to do? The interwebs,
Yeah.
all the mingling of the data, and it just gets messy. I'm excited today. We have joining today is Spectrum's own Laura Fields. She's awesome. We're going to discuss assessments and candidate experience. So Laura has got some insights regarding campaigns for retargeting applicants. These are folks who have withdrawn from the process or at the step of taking an assessment, which we know is a big pain for those trying to get these people through and fill those funnels. So we're going to talk about that. But a few things first, we are streaming on the socials. We're on the YouTube, the Facebook, the LinkedIn, the Twitch. You can check out past and learn about future upcoming, I guess upcoming and future are the same thing, but episodes at cxr.works/podcast. We make it easy if you happen to be with us while we're live streaming today and you're on the LinkedIn. Go ahead and say hello in the chat. We're going to say hello right back. If you've got questions for Laura, bring them on. Throw them up in there. We'll see if we can get some up on the screen if we've got time today and get those addressed. If we happen to miss you, we'll make sure to hit those comments as they stack up there. We'll get those answers in as well. Jerry, am I missing anything? Anything else before we bring Laura right back?
No, I think we're good.
All right. Okay. Let me see. I get over here and there she is. And we're going to put her, there she is. Let's put her in the big kid seat. All right. So Laura, I know, I want to hear the escalator pitch of who is Laura, but what I know about you is you've been an adjunct instructor. You were a senior selection and assessment consultant at Wells Fargo. You were a human capital consultant, and you have been a VP of testing programs at a consulting firm. So I'm sensing a theme here.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you want to give us kind of the escalator pitch of like who is Laura and why should we be dialed in and paying attention today?
Oh, I'm going to give this a whirl. So, Laura, my educational background is in industrial organizational psychology. I came out of that as a young kid in the year that begins with 19. So now you know about how old I am, right? And I immediately went into the field of employee selection. And that is where I have been since. So when it comes to assessments, selection and employment law, interviewing and all of that, that is my bread and butter. That's what I have been doing since the 1900s. How about that?
Ooh, 1900s makes it sound like we should put you in the history of recruiting project.
It looks like I should be shoulder to shoulder with Gerry, right? Yeah.
Well, I have to tell you, you're holding up a lot better than Gerry is, if that's the case. Thanks, Gerry.
That's for sure.
Never. He's a vision.
Well, let's start first with candidates falling out, like why they drop off, because I think we're going to dive into some really cool stuff you've done from a retargeting standpoint. But to kind of set the stage, right? A lot of candidates are dropping out when they hit that assessment stage, whether it's we could say whether it's frustration, a time commitment, or maybe just feeling like it's a hurdle, right? It's just not even worth kind of getting through. If we start there, from what you've seen, Laura, what do you think are the biggest reasons that they bail? And how can companies sort of make the assessments feel more like part of the opportunity instead of like a wall, instead of like an obstacle?
Yes. Yep. First of all, you've kind of you've teed me up very nicely, because the first thing that you can do to make sure that people take the assessment is administer it in line with your application. So when I first came to Spectrum, there were some pockets where somebody would submit their resume, sit, and then when a recruiter finally got to them, the recruiter would then send the assessment. And that's like some candidates may be saying, oh, I thought they've already forgotten about me.
Yeah.
We had withdrawal rates that were in like the 30%, 37, 38% range, depending on the job title, when assessments were administered that way. So the first thing that you can do is just have that inline, work with your ATS partners to get an inline integration and serve it up so that they don't even know it's a second step. Behind the scenes, we know it's a second step, but we just want it to feel like a continuation of the application. And since we've done that, our take rates are much more, or our withdrawal rates are much more like 15 to 20%, depending on the job. Chat jobs are the ones people want, and they'll stick with it the most, as opposed to retail, which is the toughest to get people to take, at least in my world.
Do you think so? 30% for those who've not taken a hard look at sort of those drop rates. Do you think 30%, Laura? Would you say that's probably an industry average? Would you say it's a functional average? Does it seem high to you?
It seems high. It feels like you should have a 20% drop rate. And it can fluctuate a little bit with the labor market. When we were in the Great Resignation, right, it was a lot harder to get people through. But that's about where you should be.
Laura, do you take time to set expectations to try to impact that drop rate?
Yes. So I would say that a best practice is including it in the job posting and letting people know even before they apply that there is an assessment that is part of, because again, then people kind of know what it is that they are getting into. But some of the work that I'm doing here is kind of a little bit of testing of figuring out what I might want to change my messaging. So, right now, when they go from the end of the application to the beginning of the assessment, it's like, it says something along the lines of, this role has an assessment associated with it. Make sure that you're in a space that's clean and quiet, or to take it. Otherwise, you can take it later. And so some of this retargeting that I'm doing is maybe testing some messaging that I might want to tweak on that landing page.
I love that. And I do think that in today's population of test takers, if you will, want to get something back from it. And so part of accepting or setting those expectations, it seems to me I'd love to see A/B testing with, and here's what you'll be able to learn once we've got the test, whether we go forward with you or not, we'll supply X, Y, and Z.
I think that can be a real differentiator. Some peers and I were doing some benchmarking recently about the vendor landscape in this space. And for a while, there was a ton of explosion and new companies and mergers and all sorts of that. And all of that has really settled down in like the past 5 or 6 years. And I think that we're all kind of like, hey, who's new on the scene? Who's doing something different? And we're looking around for that. And Gerry, I think that what you're suggesting could be a real differentiator for somebody new to the market.
Yeah, Laura, let me ask you too, for those, I don't think we walked through the process. So, and I know it's going to be a little different by roles, functions, levels, but when we're talking about a 30% drop rate, just to level set for folks, has there been any human interaction prior to the assessment setup?
No, and it's 20%. I got it better. Remember?
Okay.
Give me my 20%.
Yep.
So no, because it's in line with the application. So at that point, unless you've talked to a sourcer, right, and a sourcer has brought you into the funnel, you've had no human interaction. But again, you know, nothing gets past you guys. A human interaction is always going to increase any type of candidate engagement with anything that we're asking.
Oh, for sure. And what I was kind of thinking too, Laura, is that there's probably a portion in there that is part of this mass apply phenomena that we've seen in the last 6 months or so really come on strong. Some you're never gonna win that percentage back because they weren't engaged to begin with, right? They may not have actually themselves applied. I mean, there's a portion of that also, yeah?
That's right. That's right.
So to get it to 20, I think like that's pretty sick. I mean, it's well done, right?
It's not bad. And I mean, that's another one to add to the list. You did a good job kind of going over that. It's just another hurdle. It's friction. I don't feel like doing it and all of that. Just another bit of the noise that we're seeing in that group.
So, okay. So let's talk about, we've talked about how they drop off and where we lose them. Let's talk about how you're winning sort of the candidate back, right? So you've been running these retargeting campaigns for candidates who have withdrawn or just become non-responsive. So the question is, we'll just get right to it. What's actually working to get them into the process? Is it messaging? Is it timing? Is there a wicked magic spell you've got going on? Sans Broadway?
Yeah, I do have a little bit of magic, but I don't know how powerful the magic is. So, you know, kind of like you just alluded to, Chris, right? There's this bucket of people who haven't taken it. There's some people I'm not going to be able to target and get back, right? The bots who are applying, the mass appliers, the people who are like, I applied to these other jobs. These other jobs didn't make me take an assessment, so I'm not going to take it for that, right? I don't know that there's much I can do to get to that audience, especially through an email campaign and engage them and bring them back in. But the people I do think that I can engage in are the people who might be affected by something similar to a stereotype threat, which comes up in the IO literature. And essentially, it's one of those things, like I'm going to use a very simple example that applies in my life. Boys are better at math than girls. Kind of always gave me a math complex and made me think I wasn't good at math, kind of made me buy into it, right? And I never really went after being in any advanced math classes or anything. I was like, well, I won't have a job doing math. I do so much math in my job, it's insane, right? But that's just an example of stereotype threat. But then when you get presented with something like an assessment and you are told this is a math test, you have anxiety, you want to avoid it, you don't want to be a part of it. So I thought the people who are like, I don't like assessments is their reason for not taking it. And that dislike of assessments may be influenced by some aspect of stereotype threat from their experience. I was like, those are the people I want to try to go after. So I dug into the IO literature along with Matt Albar on my team, and we took a look at, what the literature says can help people who are experiencing this stereotype threat. And the literature says you can talk to them about mindfulness and give them mindfulness prompts, and that can help. There's self-affirmations where you kind of, it's called turning the knots in your stomach into bows is actually the name of the article. So it's, it's giving people things that they can say to boost their confidence, saying things to them that can boost their confidence and then help them do it. And then the third thing is underlying the job relatedness of the assessment, right? That it isn't a math test, this test or that test. This is a job relatedness.
This is a heavy lift from a candidate experience standpoint. This is not like we're throwing out assessments. People will take them to qualify. They'll get in. Those who don't. Like this is I hate to reuse the word mindful again, but this is a mindful approach to caring for the anxiety of maybe not even qualified candidates.
Oh, without a doubt.
So glad you said that, because ask me if I got qualified candidates when we get there. So anyway, I worked with my team of IOs and then the team of recruitment marketers like Katie Galligan. We kind of came together and kind of brought the marketing team and the assessment nerds all together. And we said, let's write email campaigns that do all three of one that does, self-affirmation, one that does and of course then a control group, right? So we made sure that we had 4 conditions, and we blasted email campaigns to anybody who had not taken the assessment. In the past, we probably pulled like a quarter's worth of data or something, and we wanted to see what we could get. So do you guys want to guess?
I do. I want to, well, let me back up too. Let's make sure we're on the same page. So,
right.
So you've got a set of folks who fell out at the assessment phase. You sent them an invite for assessment, crickets. Your team, the nerds and the marketing people, came together, right? I love that. You said it first. The nerds and the marketing people came together. And they set up a drip campaign that's going to address the 3 biggest issues that you believe the candidates are falling out due to, right? What could be attributed to them just being non-responsive?
Based on research.
Research-based. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And now Gerry and I are going to guess the percentage that came back.
You can just tell me what was the best. Who did how many people, what brought all the boys to the yard, if you will? So how did everybody, what condition? If you got self-affirmation email campaign, if you got the mindfulness email campaign, if you got the job relatedness email campaign, or control group?
I would guess job relatedness. Obviously, I love the fact that you're testing all 3, because now you can statistically point to which ones are giving you the most return. But I will bet you got something from all 3 in terms of returns. It's just one outpaced the other. And for me, it would be job relatedness. But
yeah, Gerry, I was going to say the same, only but if they've connected the dots as to why the assessment applies to the job, like why do I have to do that? How is that related?
Well, yeah, that would be one of the ways you'd create that.
That would tie that up for me.
That's what I would have put my money on too. And I feel like that's what would have worked for me.
Don't tell me it's mindfulness.
Self-affirmation.
Really?
So give me an example of what that message might have sounded like.
Well, first of all, we tell them we value, your skills, and what you bring to the table. You didn't take the assessment before, so come back, and when you take the assessment, remind yourself of all of your strengths and everything it is that you're bringing to the job, and keep that in the forefront of your mind so we can see that in your assessment results.
Okay, my next question is, what level of job are we talking about? What level
I should have said that frontline. Mine are all frontline, call center reps, sales in retail stores. They're all frontline roles.
Now the question is whether the people who come back for that reason, in fact, perform better longer term and from a tenure point of view, stay.
Well, I'll have to,
So
we'll have to wait
I mean,
a little bit before I can come back to you.
I know. It takes forever, and those long-term test assessments almost never
So,
happen.
They happen
Laura,
in my world, Jerry. Don't worry.
what-
I will follow up with you. But first, let's do the short term, right? Did they come back and fail the assessment?
yeah,
Right.
that's my next
Do
question.
they hate these? Do they hate assessments because they are bad test takers? There is such a thing, right? Maybe they aren't qualified and they know that, so they're going to, cut and run. 63% of the applicants who came back and took the assessment got highly recommend or recommend, which we would consider in our competitive area. So I got over 50%.
I love it.
Yeah, 20% failed.
Yeah,
20%, and I can live with that.
Well, and what's your normal attrit anyway? Does that just fall in line with your normal testing rate anyway?
Probably not that far off. Probably it's a little bit different by each assessment, but yeah, 30 to 22% are going to fail. Mm-hmm.
I love that.
interesting.
Yeah.
So I guess I love this. I love I am really surprised. I guess less surprised when we talk about the level of the role coming in, because these are folks who are maybe a little newer to the workforce, right? And so there's going to be a self-confidence issue there. I guess my question for you, Laura, would be like, what is next for assessments, right? Because you've got with AI and more personalized hiring experiences on the rise, and now this outreach program that says, "Ooh, we think maybe we're cracking the code as to our no-show rates." Where do you maybe see sort of this assessment or this engagement headed? Are there any trends coming? Are you breaking new ground in this area, and you think you're going to blow something up in the next 18 months?
I don't know that this is a complete blow up or anything like that. This is the small chipping away, that we do to make incremental change and things like a little bit better and get a little bit better and a little bit better. So I think we're going to run these campaigns again and kind of see if we get the same results. I might strip the control group out, because the control group performed absolute bottom of the barrel. So we know that one of the three conditions does more than just a standard, marketing reach out of, hey, here's Spectrum, and don't forget about us or something like that. So we know that there's something with those conditions, and I'd just like to get some more numbers and everything behind it. That's what all data nerds will always tell you.
I was gonna spoken like a real scientist. She says, we just need some more numbers, nothing right away, long term.
We did also kind of notice that this worked best for call center sales. And I want to make sure that we're reaching out to, if I'm going to reach out to people and they're going to make the effort to come back in, I really want to make sure that they're being considered. Our call center sales team those recruiters are great. And I know that they were on it and engaged and in there. And I think that's why I got the best results out of there. So I might have to do a little bit of work, making sure that recruiters are, managing their recs appropriately, having an appropriate number of applicants coming in that they can give adequate consideration to. And then I'm thinking about changing up all of the messaging, as I get more data that goes out, because it would be better if I had that messaging up front and didn't have to reach out and retarget them.
Yeah. Well, look, I want to give a call out to the call center recruiters, because having cut my teeth on corporate recruiting as a recruiter for 411, if you remember that, when you used to dial, kids out there don't know what that is, but yeah, that was, and for nothing, not a well-paying job even at the time. And I think I had to hire classes at 12 a week, bat nonstop. So it's a slog, and it is to be able to reach out and touch every one of those candidates and encourage them to come back. Props to the folks who leaned in with you on that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love what you're doing, and you're answering as best as can be done who it is that can do the job. At least elevating that piece of it. I think the missing component is the test a company should be taking that answers the question for the job seeker in their decision of will they do the job. And if you take all those who can do the job and you answer their questions properly, there's a lot of people who could perform very well who just should not be taking the job at this time.
Well, maybe in 6 months or so, I'll come back and we'll talk again, because, I have a Fit Finder assessment that is an assessment that lets people say what their preferences are and then directs them to a job.
There we go. So their motivation,
That's exactly
for
right.
why they would.
That's
So,
exactly right. So if you think they don't pull those results down and load them up into pools for who they were recommended for, like what jobs, so that maybe, Chris, maybe that's what's next. Maybe
Yeah,
we can bring these two studies together.
Well, let's blow it up just a little bit. And if you're not interested, it's fine. I'm sure you'll be polite since we're live. But you're not the only high volume hiring member we have within CXR. Certainly, we have some non-competition sitting in who are running into the same challenges. I wonder if it would be kind of interesting to share sort of that practice across the aisle. And see if they get similar results with a similar program. Because I'll bet we've got 2 or 3 that are doing high volume that would love to cut that fallout rate quite a bit, and see if you're really. It sounds like a paper to me. It sounds like something that gets published downstream to me. Like that we could really. Yep. It would only take 2 or 3 other companies with the volume you guys do.
I'd love a connection in CXR that we can partner on this and work on it together. I mean, it's about information sharing, right? It's not about I'm going to crack the code and sit back, because this benefits the candidates and the employers both.
Well, yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'm taking homework back to find a couple of folks to get you connected with, because I'll bet we've got a couple who, because it's not, I'm not making light of the lift that this was, but we're not talking about rocket science here. We're talking about candidate care.
It wasn't really a lot of work. I say that as the person who didn't clean, scrub, and match the data, though. So
That's fair. Well, look, Laura, we love having you on. There's a question we ask all of our guests on the show as we begin to wrap up. If you were going to write a book about this topic, which could be a paper downstream, so just we'll put a pin in that. But if you were going to write a book on that today, what would the title of the book be?
Oh man. All I can think of right now is assessments for all with an exclamation point, because I really do believe in the power of the predictability of assessments. What I don't like is the error that you get where really well qualified people feel like, oh, I don't want to take this.
I love it.
So.
Yeah. Okay. And
that's restriction.
Yeah. And you get one more question. Present company excluded. Who gets the first signed copy of your book?
My IO professor, Nora Riley. So Dr. Nora Riley will get the first one, because I know what I know only because of her.
I love it. Good stuff. Laura, much gratitude. We love having you on. It is always great to talk to you. Throwing you up on a panel or bringing you into the podcast or any of the meetings. It's just so great. You're just so smart and fun to talk to. Thank you so much.
Feeling is mutual.
All right. Love it. Everybody else, we will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, cxr.work/podcast. And we're out of here. Let's say bye, folks.
Thanks for listening to the CXR channel. Please subscribe to CXR on your favorite podcast resource and leave us a review while you're at it. Learn more about CXR at our website, cxr.works, facebook.com and twitter.com/careercrossroads, and on Instagram @careerxroads. We'll catch you next time.